Hey, you guys. Welcome to Talk About It Thursdays. I am your host, Karen Bailey. Let me know when you're on. I would love to say hello to you. Happy Thursday, everybody. It's almost the weekend again. That's always exciting. Whether I have plans or not, I'm always happy when it's almost the weekend. You guys, last week we talked about there's a stranger in my house. So I hope you guys took some notes from that and took the tidbits you needed to prevent yourself from becoming somebody that you don't even recognize anymore. We have to take care of ourselves first, you guys, before we can even think about being an asset to anybody else. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. And then today, you guys, hey, Miss Wendy, how are you, sweetheart? Happy Thursday. Hope you had a great Labor Day, whether you had to work or not. We're all so blessed, you guys. And I was telling one of my friends the other day, I said, I'm really blessed. And I speak, not out of because I have everything I want, because I've got the best house, the best car, the best relationships, this, that, and the other. It's not even about that. It's just something about just being grateful to God for what you do have. Even the little bit that you have is a blessing, because some people don't even have that. And then once you get that down in your spirit, once you learn to be grateful for what you have rather than worrying about what you don't have and what your neighbor has and this, that, and the other, you'll learn how to be content. You don't ever stop striving and trying to go for that next thing, but you don't look down on what you have. You don't feel bad about what you have. And that's an amazing feeling, because I haven't always been there. So I'm just thankful to God for this time in my life where I realize just how fortunate I really am. So you guys, let's move forward with today. This topic, it just hit my spirit one day, about how we always are so quick to put our mouths on things. We're so quick to have a response to people sometimes, or we're so quick to speak on a situation, whether we have all the facts or not. And it's not just women that do that. I've been in barbershops. I've listened to men gossip just as well. I've been outside church. I've heard deacons gossip. I've heard pastors gossip. So it's not just women that do this. But God reminded me, it's amazing what happens when I take my mouth off of things. So that's where that topic came in, when you take your mouth off of it. And there are two kinds of people in this world, you guys. There are people that are God conscious, like what I was saying before, where you are grateful and you see God and you see God working and you understand it's because of God that you have what you have. That's called being God conscious. And then some people are world conscious, where all they worry about is keeping up with the Joneses, the trends that are going on. Their whole concern is trying to keep up and trying to stay ahead in this world. So those are world conscious people. And let's talk a little bit more about God consciousness. You learn to appreciate and see God in everything in your life. And a God conscious person believes everything and everyone belongs to God. When you think about that, your body doesn't belong to you. Those material things, that house, that car, that job, those children, none of that really belong to you. If you really understood, what God says in His Word, everything belongs to God. And a God-conscious person tries to keep that in the forefront of their mind. And then when you're God conscious, when you spend time with God, when you spend time studying God's Word and praying, you can start seeing God moving, just even in different situations. You can even see it in the seasons changing, what God is doing. And God conscious people tend to let God's Word lead them in decision making. They don't quickly give you an answer all the time, or they don't make rash decisions. They say things like, you know what, let me think about it. Let me pray about it. I'll get back to you on that. That's when you know that you're not just relying on yourself. You want to ask a higher authority because you want to do the best that you can. Nobody likes making mistakes. Nobody likes suffering the consequences of the mistakes that we make. And when you become more God conscious and you tend to go to God in prayer and wait for an answer, your decisions tend to turn out a lot better than if you try to do it in your own strength. And God-conscious people tend to be more stable because they realize that being a good steward over something and being faithful to something is a characteristic of God. And God-conscious people want to be more like God. They want some of those attributes that God has. They want to be a better person. So they tend to be more steadfast and more stable in their convictions. And they walk the walk that they talk. You know, we understand as children of God, of people that are trying to be better than we used to be, that our actions do have to line up with our words. There's so many people out here doing double talk and bragging this, that, and the other, and you can't trust them with nothing. You can't count on them to do anything, and everything they say, hey, Eloise, is just to make themselves look better without the intention of actually following through. But when you're a God-conscious person, it bothers you when you don't follow through. It bothers you when you let people down. It bothers you when you lead people astray. So that's what it means to be God-conscious. Now, to be world-conscious, I was telling her, Eloise, there are two types of people, God-conscious and world-conscious. World-conscious people are always checking to see what's going on. Social media is their go-to for everything. And they tend to focus more on everything that's going on in the world. And they tend to follow trends, and they feel like they have the right to do whatever they want to do when they want to do it, you know, simply because they can. And they base their decisions on what's popular or experiences from their past. And oftentimes they make decisions out of their emotions. I have been that kind of person. Hey, Gina, I have been that kind of person that has acted out, you know, and made big decisions off of my emotions or off of my past experiences or off of what I thought other people wanted me to do. That's when you're world conscious. That's when you allow influences other than God to help guide your decisions. And a lot of times, world conscious people rely on their own knowledge and their own intellect. And God's word tells us very plainly, lean not to your own understanding. Because he knows our understanding is flawed. He knows our understanding is based on our experiences and the people that have been around us and what we've learned from watching other people. And he knows that all of that's flawed. That's why he says, trust in God and lean not to your own understanding. But world conscious people tend to lead to their own understanding. And I was asked, you guys, by a friend of mine, you know, when it comes to women getting together, why is it that women seem to always have drama, you know, if a group of women get together? And I told him, honestly, it's just two issues when women come together. I don't care if they're supposed to be Christian women. I don't care if they're sorority. I don't care what they're supposed to be. These two issues always seem to creep up. And y'all tell me if I'm wrong. The first one is there's always somebody wanting to be the center of attention. There's always women that's going to always, hey, Christy, want to be seen. They want to outshine everybody else. That's the first problem. And the second problem is the words that we allow to come out of our mouths. We put our mouths on too many things. We start talking about one another. We start getting together and chatting about people and nitpicking about things and blaming and this, that, and the other. This is why it's hard for groups of women to be able to do something without there being some drama somewhere. And most of us are a mixture of God consciousness and also world consciousness. And that's okay, because we live in this world. So some things of this world are always going to affect us. I don't care how spiritual you think you are. I don't care how close you feel like you walking with God, there are going to be some things that's going to stir up that worldly side in you from time to time. So you guys, let's talk about 10 things that we must all remember if we want to increase our ability to grow as a person, to level up, and to become a mature thinker. The first thing we've got to realize, all of us have to realize, is that good and bad happens to everybody. There is not a person that gets skipped on the good, and there's not a person that's going to get skipped on the bad. You know, just because those things happen to you, or something bad happens to you, don't automatically think that God is not on your side. We don't always understand why God allows us to go through what we go through. God knows I don't understand it, but I do trust God enough to know that it's not a punishment. I trust God enough to know that because He promised me that the plans He had for me are good and will have a good end, and they're to prosper me, not to harm me. Sometimes He has to let me bump my head. Sometimes, because sometimes you're going in the wrong direction and you're hard-headed. You know, I'm a Taurus, so sometimes I'm hard-headed. And I'll tell anybody, you know, you're going to have to work with me a little bit. Explain to me why I should do it another way. I said, because I'm willing to listen, and it'll eventually get through. But sometimes I can be strong-willed. Sometimes when I know that I know something, you're going to have to kind of convince me otherwise. So sometimes God has to let us go through some things, you guys, in order to get us back in line. And sometimes it's even in order to protect us from those unseen things that are in our future that we know nothing about. So good and bad, number one, happens to everybody. Nobody's going to get skipped. Number two, continued disobedience will eventually lead to destruction. It may not kill you, but there are going to be some things that are going to be destroyed in your life. You know, God warns us about a lot of things, and God is always trying to guide us and have the Holy Spirit speak to us. But when we override those things, some things are going to die. Some things are going to be destroyed that you're not going to be able to get back, whether it's somebody's trust, whether it is a friendship, whether it's a relationship, whether it's an opportunity that you missed because you were being disobedient, rather it was a blessing that you missed out on because you wouldn't get in line. Some things don't come back to you. Some things, once they're gone, they're gone. So continued disobedience without any remorse or trying to get back in line, it's going to end to some things being destroyed in your life. And you just got to face that fact. You know, if you're willing to go down that road, can you handle the consequences of your decision? Hey, Jackie, and that's part of being a grown-up. You know, if you make a decision, stick with it. If you understand the consequences of it and you've got your mind made up to do it, then deal with it. But don't expect for things to not be destroyed because you're being disobedient. Even when you're a child of God, God will allow some things to die in your life if you won't be obedient. Number three, the third thing we need to understand is this tongue of ours. That's why I say sometimes we need to take our mouths off of it, because life and death is in the power of the tongue. Our tongue is so strong. I've seen grown men cry because of words that are coming from a woman that loves them. Just the things they've said to him and the things they said about the kind of man he was and this, that, and the other, and you're nothing, and I don't want you, and blah, blah. I have seen big, strong men cry and be broken by small, 5-foot petite women that have that fiery tongue. And y'all, we kill people with our tongue. We kill people's spirit with our tongue. So we have to be careful about that, because the Bible talks about that we have to give an account. for the things we've said and for the things that we've done. So if we're planning on being a better person, we need to watch what we say. And if you don't have something nice to say, consider not saying anything at all. Because we actually curse ourselves sometimes by what comes out of our mouth. We'll say, oh, well, I'm planning to do this, and then next sentence come out of your mouth, but I don't know how I'm going to do it. We don't have no money for all that. I don't know how I'm going to work it out, blah, 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 blah. Well, you're cursing yourself. You're throwing something out there that's bigger than you, and because you get scared or because you start looking at things in the physical or start looking at your own limitations, then you basically cancel it out with some of the negative things that you say right behind it. You know, we do that with our mouths. And then we cancel our blessings by what we allow to come out of our mouths. You know, God can bless you with a beautiful friendship, and God will trust you with that friendship, and we'll say something totally off the wall to people because we're in a bad mood or because somebody has hurt our feelings. Then we take it out on everybody else. And sometimes that blessing that God sent you in another person, you can run those people away with your mouth and with your attitude. So sometimes you cancel out your own blessing. Sometimes you can do people so dirty that God had intended to bless you, to the point where that person becomes disobedient. They're not going to bless you even if God tells them they're supposed to, simply because of how you treated them and how you responded to them. And we have to be careful because we don't know who God is sending to bless us. We don't know who. Sometimes our enemy is going to end up blessing us. That's why it's better to keep your mouth off of people. Say what you got to say. Do it the best way you can and leave it alone. You don't have to keep talking about people. If you're not friends with them anymore, why are you still talking about him? If he's your ex, why are you still talking about him? Or if you know you don't fool with that circle of people, why are you still putting your mouth on those people? Obviously, they have some significance to you if you're still talking about it. We have got to stop putting our mouths on people. We got to stop bad-mouthing situations. You know, if you're going to plan to do something, stop speaking against it. Because what happens is we can build people up with this tongue, or we can tear people down with the words that come out of our mouths. And that's what's happened to a lot of these children out here that don't feel like anybody cares, that they feel like it doesn't matter what they do. That's why they end up locked up. That's why they end up joining gangs and things of that nature. Somebody has broken that child's spirit. Somebody has made that child feel like they're less than. And so they're out there searching for a place to belong. And a lot of times they find the wrong place and they do the wrong things, just trying to find somebody that will value them. And sometimes it's the people that's doing the wrong things that treat your child better than you do. And that's a sad state of affair, that your child would rather run with a gang because they make them feel more loved than you do, and you're their parents or their siblings. So we got to think about what we do and what we let come out of our mouth, because it doesn't just touch you. That goes out further than you'll ever imagine, because not only do you hurt that person with what you say, now you put that bitter root in their spirit, and then later on they're going to hurt somebody else, and that cycle's going to continue, and continue. So it doesn't just stop with the person that you hurt with your mouth. It goes on. Those things spread. And then number 4, the next thing you got to remember is either you're going to give careful advice, or we need to stop giving advice at all, you guys. Hey, Kathy, stop telling people what you think they should do. Hey, Hannah, stop telling people what you think they should do. You are not an expert on anything. Don't ask me what I think you should do. Ask me to pray with you. Ask me to pray for you. That's what you ask me to do, because what worked for me may not work for you. What I did may have a totally different consequence for you. So we need to start being more mindful about butting in people's business, jumping in, giving people advice and telling them what they should do, because you don't want your words to be the last words that people hear before they make a big decision. Let me say that one more time for the people in the back. I don't want my words to be the last words that you hear when you're making a life-changing decision. I don't want that on me. I want God's words to be the last words that you hear. That's why we have to be careful about giving advice. If you're not going to be careful with the advice you give, please keep your mouth off of it. Please don't be that person that urges somebody to do something big, and then when it doesn't work out, you can't be found, or they can't rely on you to help them. Because that's usually what happens. People can get you into stuff, and I'm a living witness because they've done it to me. They got me into stuff and was just all in my ear. And then when I got in it and when I started going through, those people were nowhere to be found. They weren't answering their phones. They weren't returning my text messages. They weren't calling to check on me, this, that, and the other. And I had to learn a very, very, very valuable lesson about advice and about listening to people. They might act like they love you, but when I tell you, when things go wrong, especially the people that talk the loudest, those people will always hide. They will always hide and not be there for you. So either give careful advice, you guys, or don't give any advice at all. And then give your input, but always at the end of it, let that person know that they need to pray about it and get their answers from God. You know, God gives all of us wisdom, you guys, and we're supposed to share that. You know, and when somebody's going through, it's great to share what you've gone through and your experiences, this, that, and the other. But make sure they understand that was you and it's not them. Make sure you leave them with that distinction that at the end of it all, hey, Teresa, after we finish talking, sis, I need you to go to God in prayer. I need you to get your answers from God, because we want God's words to be the words that person hears when they decide if they're going to get a divorce, when they decide if they're going to move to another city, when they decide if they're going to change jobs or change their church home, this, that, and the other. They don't need your voice to be the voice in their ears. They need their direction from God. That way they know that they're making a good decision. And number 5, we all have to understand, as hard as it is, especially for moms out there, it's hard being a mama and realizing that people belong to God and not to us. You know, a lot of problems with our grown children is we still trying to mama them and they in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s when we have done the raising. And those are God's children, just like you're God's child. God gave them to you for a season. God sent them to you and allowed you to have those children in your life. But at the end of the day, we all got to realize that people belong to God and they do not belong to us. And that'll take some of that burden off of you. You know how we can raise our children up and then when they get out there in the world, they get influenced, hey chick, and start doing all kinds of stuff they weren't taught at home, and you trying to figure out where I went wrong, this, that, and the other. Calm yourself, mom, and go to God about his child, because they're God's children. And if you will go to God in prayer about your children, God is always doing something. He's always up to something. So just understand, just because you can't see what he's doing in your child's life doesn't mean he's not working. I went with some friends and we saw that beautiful movie that's out called The Forge. If y'all have not seen it, I encourage y'all to see it. I couldn't keep my eyes dry. It was beautiful. And it was a reminder of just what I'm talking about today, about keeping your mouth off of people, especially that negative mouth. It's fine to pray. If you're going to speak something good, by all means speak it. But 9 times out of 10, when something is going on, that negativity creeps up before the positive does. So in that movie, it showed a mother that didn't know how to bring out the man in her child, and she saw that he just seemed like he was wasting his life, and it was frustrating, getting on her last good nerve, and she just didn't know what to do, because here she is as a single mom trying to do this by herself. And I imagine she started blaming herself because she was a single mom. That's what single moms do. When our kids aren't going the way we think they should go, we start feeling bad about ourselves, and we start talking bad about ourselves, and start wishing we'd have done this, wishing we'd have done that. People belong to God. They don't belong to us. And in that movie was a prime example of that. She brought women together to pray for her child. She wasn't speaking against him. She brought people to speak life into her child, and speak God's will into her child. And that's all we're required to do, because they don't belong to us, you guys. And just like when we got out of the house, we got out there and we got wild for a little bit, but God brought us back. God was working on us then. Whether somebody was praying for us or not, God never took his hands off of us, because all of us are where we are today simply because of God's grace. So just understand that same grace that worked for you is going to work for your children, because they're God's children. Number 6, remember, when you take your mouth off of it, God will begin to put his hands on it. As long as you are interfering and trying to do it on your own, or interfering, trying to fix it for everybody instead of letting God do what he's going to do, sometimes we get in the way. And I'm a fixer. I fix stuff, y'all. And God had to really make me sit on my hands when it came to my children once they got grown. I literally had to make myself so busy that I stayed out of their business, because I knew God was up to something, and I knew the fixer that I am, the problem solver that I was going to get in the way. So God got me busy. I had all kinds of projects he had me doing, simply because I was trying so hard to be the kind of mother that's there for you for advice, but not trying to run your life, not trying to show you how to be a man. Because it's hard for a woman to show a boy how to be a man. Nowadays, I'm sure it's hard for a woman to show a young girl, how to be a woman, simply because of all these influences out here. So I pray for the moms of the girls, because y'all are competing with social media. Y'all are competing with their friends. Y'all are competing with what's on television. My heart goes out to any mother that's raising children in this day and age. Y'all have got to pray for your children on the regular, you guys, because there's so much out there and just all up in their face right now. God has got to be the center in their life for them to be able to navigate and become the people that they need to be. And number 7, if you can't stand behind it, don't say it. I can't stand people that will boldly proclaim something, and then as soon as somebody question them about it, they back down. We have got to be people that if you say something, if you have a conviction about something, don't let other people talk you down from it. Stop being a person that is a people pleaser. Stop worrying about who supports you and who doesn't support you. If you can't stand behind it, don't even bother saying it, you guys. We got to do better about letting our word be our word, and our yes be yes and our no be no. Because people look at you as strong or weak by how they can make you change your mind. And I watch people there are manipulators out there that will try to make you change your mind just to see how strong you really are, or if you're going to stand behind what you said. Number 8, if it doesn't fit, stop trying to force it. It may not be for you. You know, I'll tell anybody being single, especially at our age, it's something else. You learn a lot about people because we're wise enough now to be able to see through a lot of stuff. And so a lot of the stuff that people are out here doing don't work for women our age. And so now we're learning to love ourselves. We're learning that our relationship with God is way more important than having a relationship with a significant other. And once you get that in your spirit and you put God first, if it's meant, you won't have to force it. If it's meant, you won't have to chase it. If it's meant, you won't have to wonder if they care about you or not. You know, it's a lot of things that are counterfeit out there, but when it comes from God, you're going to know it. And so that's why don't try to force anything. Don't try to force friends to do anything. I was talking to one of my other friends. I said, you know what? Whoever comes along and wants to do something with me, fine. Whoever doesn't, I don't want to feel bad about it. I'm not going to make them feel bad about it. I'd be like, okay, catch you next time. Because that's my new thing. If y'all don't want to go, I'm going. I'll catch you next time. Don't be all in your feelings trying to make people do what you want them to do or try to make people be around you. If some people, if they don't want to do it, let that be them. That's their choice. Stop trying to force people into situations. Stop trying to force people to spend time with you. We got to stop doing that, you guys, because you make people resent you when you do that. And then you get all up in your feelings when you don't have to. Just relax and just let things flow. Number 9, it's better to wait in faith than to move quickly on impulse. I had to learn that the hard way, y'all. I had to learn, and it took me a minute to learn it. I'm not even ashamed that it took me a minute to learn it because I got it. It's kind of like having to take a test over and over again, but then you finally pass it. The fact that I passed it, that's what I'm proud of. I don't really understand why it took me so long to get it, but whatever. Long as you get it, that's all that matters. Sometimes you got to understand that what you want may still be for you, but you got to move at the right time. God's timing is perfect. So sometimes you got to wait in faith and understand that when you move before you need to, sometimes you're not ready for what you're trying to reach for. And God knows when you're able to tolerate something. God knows when you're ready for a situation to come in your life. Because when we move too fast and we mess it up, sometimes it can't be undone. And sometimes it can't be taken back. And sometimes, you know, you hurt good people when you move into a situation and you're not ready. I was talking to one of my friends the other day and I was like, you know, people are always trying to push you into relationships with people. But if you don't wait in faith and take time to get to know people, how do you know what you're going to be dealing with if you're not willing to at least spend some time with that person, quality time? You don't just hop in a relationship with somebody just because they look good or you've had a few good conversations. You need to interview that person. You need to spend time with that person to see if they're going to even be worth your time, worth your energy. And it was somebody that said to me one time that you need to spend enough time with people to see how they act in all 4 seasons of the year. You know, because people change throughout the year. Spend time getting to know one another. Everything doesn't have to lead to a relationship. Sometimes you make your best friends by not trying to force something. Sometimes people are just only meant to be your friend, and sometimes those will be the best friends you've ever had. So wait on God instead of moving on impulse. And number 10, we all need to start practice acknowledging God and asking His guidance before we do things. and not wait until we get into trouble, not wait till we make a mistake, not wait until we've exhausted all possibilities. Let's start acknowledging him before we do things. Let's start asking for his guidance before we make those decisions. Those are the 10 things that we could do, you guys, to help us be better people. It'll help us feel closer to God, and it'll help us be a better example to others. So let's talk about what happens when we put our mouths on things, people, and situations. When we speak out of turn, sometimes you lose credibility, especially when you're speaking on something you know nothing about and you done spoke what you predict is going to happen and end up being the opposite. You look like a fool. You look foolish because you spoke things out of your mouth when you didn't have the information that you needed. And people don't forget that. They don't forget that. And I'm one of those people now, I check people's energy and I watch what they say and what they do. And when people show me that they boo-boo the fool, I don't forget that. And I handle you according to what you show me you are. And so that's what happens when you do more talking than listening and you always putting your mouth on things. Another thing, you can ruin people's reputations. You know, I've had people try to ruin my reputation, speaking on things that was going on with me that they knew nothing about. I said, you know, when I kept my mouth closed, when I didn't put my mouth on it, when I didn't clap back, when I didn't respond to things, God worked it out. God let people see that none of that stuff was true. And that's what God wants you to do. He don't want you fighting with people over petty stuff, over silly stuff. He says to be still and know that he's God and let him fight your battles. Because God will deal with people that try to deal with you. I've watched him do it. All because I moved my hands and I moved my mouth off of the situation. And then when you put your mouth on things, you tend to show your true colors. You know, have you ever had a so-called friend that, you know, as soon as something went wrong or you made a mistake, they were the first one to talk about it and tell other people about it? Girl, I don't know what made her do that. I don't know. She tripping, this, that, and the other. You know what? You find out who's loyal to you when you make a mistake. You find out who's loyal to you when people bring you back something is said when you're not around. And sometimes our friends will be the first one, hey, Roderick, spreading our business. And I don't know why people do that or why people think that's okay or why people think that you shouldn't be mad about that. But that's not okay. That was not your story to tell. So that's what happens when people put their mouths on things. You know, Facebook and Instagram, people want to be the first one to tell other people's bad news. And that's just wrong. Because you don't know the whole story. You'll never know the whole story. But people are quick to do that. So you have to be careful about putting your mouth on things. And when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. Because if they'll betray you once, I promise you, I give you my word, as sure as my name is Karen, they gonna do it again. They always do. They can't help themselves. And if they gossip about other people, I promise you, they talking about you too. Anybody that's lived long enough to have that happen to them, they know that this is true. And then when we put our mouths on things, we talk people out of loving us sometimes or wanting to be around us. If we're always complaining and whining and talking about what we don't have and playing our friends and our significant others and talking bad about them, this, that, and the other, you know, you can talk people out of wanting to be around you. You can even talk a person out of loving you if all you do is complain, if all you do is put your mouth on things, when they're trying to do the best that they can to give you what you need and what you want, but it's never good enough. I've met men like that whose wives have tried to be all they could be and they were never satisfied and was always looking over at somebody else or trying to be with somebody else. And I've seen women do that, have hard-working husbands. But just because they're not perfect, or because they don't do something like this person or that person, or they don't compare to that person's husband, they start talking down about them. They start mistreating them. They start saying things behind their back. And that's not right. And God don't like ugly. But that's not right, you guys. And then we need to hush. And this is for me and everybody else. If you're not healed, then stop talking. If something is a sore spot for you and somebody else is going through it, you don't have a right to bring all of your hurt and all of your dysfunction and all your brokenness over to somebody else that's trying to figure out what they're going to do. And we got to stop doing that. You know, if you haven't got over your bitterness about what your ex-husband did or ex-boyfriend did, don't start speaking to somebody that's going through marital problem, because you're not healed. You're not healed. And when you do that, all you do is cause that other person to catch that brokenness from you. It's almost like an infection. All of a sudden their situation gets worse because they're listening to you all the time. We have got to take our mouths off of things and understand our position and where we are in life before we speak on somebody's situation. And especially if you are dealing with stuff in your own life that's in the same line of that person asking you for advice, be man or woman enough to say, you know what? I don't even want to speak on that right now because I'm dealing with it myself and I'm still healing. I'm still broken from it. See, that's where that grown man and grown woman come in. When you're willing to let somebody know that, hey, you know, I'm gonna get you somebody to talk to because I'm not the one you need to talk to, because I'm still healing from my own pain, because I was traumatized that same way. I still haven't gotten over what this person did to me. Be man or woman enough to do that. Nobody needs their hurt and your hurt piled on top, because you can't get out from under all of that. We need to be better people, and we need to be more honest with ourselves, because all of us have some areas where we may still be broken, that we're still trying to heal. But don't jump on the bandwagon. Don't jump in the pity party. Don't jump in the gossip section about a situation when you're not healed. Like I said before, either give careful advice, you guys, or we need to hush until we're healed. Okay? And then never trust your tongue while your heart is bitter. We all have to hush until we heal. You guys, thank you so much for watching. And I hope that we're more careful about what we say and what we do, and just realize just how powerful we are. You know, you never know how much somebody looks up to you and how much somebody takes your advice to heart. So we don't want to be those people that lead people astray. We don't want people thinking back saying, well, I only did this because Karen told me this is what she would do, or Karen told me to do that. I don't want that to ever come out of anybody's mouth. I need people to make decisions based off of, what did God tell you about it? Did God tell you that what Karen was saying lines up? And if it doesn't, that's okay, because I'm human. But we all need to just be more careful with one another, and we all just need to really be honest with ourselves. And just understand everything is not for you to speak on. Everything is not for you to assist with. And we just need to learn not to put our mouths on everything. Thank y'all for watching. I hope you guys had a great Labor Day. And I'm looking forward to another weekend. You guys stay safe. That doggone COVID. I've had so many patients calling today. They tested positive. So just be aware. And wear those masks if you're in those big crowds. Wash your hands. Keep that hand sanitizer. And you guys just be safe out there. I love you guys. And I will see y'all next week. Stay safe. Love you. Bye.